What's up guys, and welcome to my channel. So I've used the Xtrfy MZ1, the RocketJumpNinja mouse, the RJN mouse or Zeiss Rail for about 4 weeks now, and today I'm finally ready to publish my full review. It's really cool to see a collaboration like this done, and I hope to see more of these in the future. This specific RocketJumpNinja and Xtrfy collaboration made a lot of sense for both parties. By the way guys, I posted this community poll about 2 weeks ago asking if you guys knew that I used to be a professional gamer, and a lot of you answered no. So yeah, a long time ago I used to be one of the best Call of Duty 1 and Call of Duty 4 players in the world, and I won international tournaments online and in LAN. I don't think it's important for a reviewer to be good in games. I think technical knowledge and experience are the most important things, but competitive angle does add something to my reviews for sure. Back to the subject, let's start the Xtrfy MZ1 Zeiss Rail review. The design on the Xtrfy MZ1 is of course done by RocketJumpNinja himself, and it's a small, lightweight ergonomic mouse. Or I would maybe say semi-ergonomic, as the sides are only slightly different. The left side of the mouse is almost completely flat, whereas there is this curvature for your thumb on the right side of the mouse. The mouse weighs about 60 to 61 grams on my scale, but for this size, it's not actually that lightweight. As the Xtrfy M42 for example is pretty much the same weight, but it's quite a bit larger. But the MZ1 still feels lightweight, and it's very well balanced. The build quality in the mouse is good. There is some slight creaking, but there is no side flex, top flex or bottom flex. There is also no rattle, and the mouse feels all in all well built in hand. There is quite a bit of holes on the mouse, but there are these spots where there are no holes on the sides and on the top of the mouse. In these areas you can feel the coating, and it feels good to me. It's grippy, and there seem to be no fingerprints even after about 4 weeks of use. All in all, the creaking does not happen in real use, and these holes that the Xtrfy mice have, these are circular and rounded, so they do not bother me, at least in real use or in game. Moving on to the cable and the mouse feet, and these are actually both significantly improved from the previous Xtrfy mice. The new EasyCord Pro is a lot more flexible than the old EasyCord. It's also way thinner, so it should be easier to put this into any bungee basically. I used the MZ1 with the Pulsar Micro Bungee, and the results have been great. Regarding the feet, the Xtrfy MZ1 has pure PTFE feet, and there are 3 of them. You also get an additional set and a sensor ring in the box. The glide on these feet is very good on control surfaces and smooth surfaces, but they do struggle a little bit with rougher surfaces. For example, the feet perform very well with my GameSense radar and my eSports Tiger Neon pad, but not that great with my eSports Tiger EBA mousepad. The experience with the UBA is slightly rougher than I would like. The sensor in the MZ1 is the 3389 from PixArt, and the performance is exceptional. The polling rate is stable, and the dpi deviation is in normal numbers. The lift-off distance is also under 1 dVd on the lowest setting. So as with all mice that pretty much have the 3389, there are no issues in terms of performance, responsiveness or acceleration. There is a lot to cover with the configuration, but I do not want to waste your or my time, so I'll just link the official Xtrfy documentation in my description. They have videos and guides on how to do basically everything. The main things that I would recommend is to use the lowest lift-off distance setting, the highest polling rate option, and the lowest click latency setting, which is 2 milliseconds, and Xtrfy has had very low click latencies with these Project 4 mice. Again, great sensor performance and low click latency. There is absolutely nothing to complain or nitpick about in here. The main mouse buttons are using the Gale GM 8.0 switches. The click feeling is nice and tactile, and these are somewhat spammable. There is a medium amount of pre-travel and some post-travel. The post-travel is very much needed in this mouse, as it makes the clicks feel a little bit softer, because these are not the easiest clicks to actuate. And for the pre-travel, I can barely feel that in real use or in games. With this click design, the further forward you click the button, the easier it is to actuate. At the front edge of the buttons, the actuation is quite easy, but the issue with me is that when I grip the mouse, I do not have my fingers anywhere near there. I hold my fingers quite far back, and you need some force to actuate the clicks from here. So I do think that the click design on the MZ1 could be improved. Light actuation is very important in MOBA games, but of course also in CSGO and Valorant for example. If the clicks are lighter, this also of course means that they are easier to actuate, which means that your response time can be faster. And fast reaction speed is of course extremely important when you hold a corner in CS or Valorant. Other than that, the clicks are extremely consistent, as the left and the right button feel exactly the same. And I do still think that these buttons are very good, but there is room for improvement. The side buttons are tactile and crispy, but there is some pre and post travel on the backside button. If you use quite a bit of force, you can definitely feel the post travel, but other than that, I would say that these feel good in games and in general use. The side buttons are also very well placed for my grip style and hand size. Definitely not the best side buttons I've tried, but not the worst either. I would say these are just basically good. The scroll wheel click requires a medium amount of force to actuate, so you can definitely use this in games. The scrolling itself is very smooth and the steps are not very defined. If you've used any of the Project 4 Xtrfy mice before, this feels very familiar. I would say that the scrolling experience is all in all okay. Here is a sound test for you guys. By the way guys, we just hit 5,000 subscribers, so massive thank you for you all. If you enjoy my content and if you haven't subscribed already, remember to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so let's talk about the shape. But first a little bit of context for you guys if you're new here. So I'm basically a claw gripper and my hands are 19 x 10 cm long. And for me, pretty much the only important thing is in-game performance and of course consistency of that performance. Before I received the MZ1, I was very excited to try it out. But I was also slightly scared because of the size. Usually these very thin and low profile mice do not work that well for me. But the mouse does flare out to the front and the back of the mouse, and this saves it for me, as from the front the mouse is about 58mm wide and from the back it's about 58.5mm wide. The mouse is also very short at 111mm and I was actually very doubtful being able to claw grip this mouse with my hand size. Looking at other characteristics of the shape, it's also very low profile from the front. And it's a quite flat profile altogether, as it very gradually slopes up towards the hump. The comfort grooves on the mouse are very pronounced. These are by far the biggest comfort grooves I've seen. These are of course okay if you grip the mouse like RocketJumpNinja does, but for me who claw grips the mouse, I do not have my fingers where they are supposed to be. I would definitely prefer less pronounced comfort grooves, but these are not a massive issue for me. Initially the mouse felt very uncomfortable for me, but after about 2 weeks I started to find a grip that was very good for me in terms of aim and comfort. The way I normally claw grip mice is that I want the bottom of my palm to be touching the mouse, but I do not want the mouse to have any contact near where my fingers are or on the sides of my palm. But when we look at the shape of the Xtrfy MZ1, this is of course going to be impossible. The hump isn't very gradual, it's basically very steep, and for me it's impossible to have any contact with the bottom of my palm. So of course I had to adjust my grip style quite a bit to the MZ1. And for anyone who claw grips their mice, you have to be flexible with your grip style. But that's definitely not a bad thing though, as I noticed that after about 2 weeks I was performing very well with the MZ1. The way I claw the mouse is that my palm is only touching the mouse near where my fingers are. This is the most comfortable and the most controlled way for me. This way I feel very mobile and still have a lot of control. This wasn't quite the final solution though, as I still had some issues with comfortability. But the final form of my grip style is basically holding the MZ1 in a slight angle and having this kind of palm contact that I explained earlier. This way I'm aiming very well with the MZ1 and I'm also consistent. If you're going to buy the MZ1, I highly recommend for you to experiment as well if you claw grip. For palm grip I do not recommend the MZ1 at all, and for fingertip grip it's of course very comfortable. For me at least, it seems to battle with the Razer Orochi version 2 for the best fingertip grip shape. In regards of my in-game performance, as I already mentioned, the first 2 weeks were quite horrible, but after that I started to play very well in CSGO, Quake and Call of Duty. As the shape is so unique, it was important for me to test it for an extended period of time to see if I get any kind of wrist pains or discomfort. And the last 2 weeks that I used it, I sadly started to get some discomfort in my wrist. But I played a lot more than I have in a long time, and I used the MZ1 as a work mouse also, so I did use it for many hours every day. I'm pretty sad for this as I performed very well in all the games that I played. And surprisingly for me, it's one of the best performers that I've tried. But I will give my wrist some time to recover and then I will retry using the MZ1. For you guys, I do not recommend using a mouse that causes any kind of discomfort or pain. And it doesn't make much sense in my case either, especially because there are at least about 3 mice that I performed just as well with as I do with the MZ1. Who's the mouse for then? Well, I would say it's for most people who fingertip grip their mice and have a hand size of 20cm x 10cm or smaller. For claw grip then again, I would not recommend this to anybody who has larger than 19 x 10cm hands. To be honest, the MZ1 is definitely not the first first choice I would recommend for claw grip, as in my opinion it's not a very safe option for this grip style. That does not mean that you will dislike it though, and it can be a good experience for you to test a low profile, flat, thin and a short mouse. But again, I do think that there are safer options. This is mainly for those who like to experiment. Also, the fact that I had discomfort or pain on my wrist does not mean that you will have it even if you have the same exact grip style and same hand size. This whole Xtrfy MZ1 review process has probably been the most interesting review process I've ever had. I actually learned something new about grip styles and what kind of claw grips can work for me. I think that I can implement elements from the way I grip the MZ1 to many different mice, and even mice that are a fair bit larger than the MZ1. But thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and see you in the next one.
I'm racing the clock, look at him block, watching him flop. Used to see this in my sleep, when I ain't had put my thoughts in the car, I really was lost. Now I'm public with the soundscapes, floss, I'm really pulling strings for the pound cake. I see you went for a puppet in the clown face for a little wage. The talk of the town is late, still me, I never switched sides, came a long way with the gas tank running on fumes, wonder why you full on the envy. When it's all love, when I fall through with the young bulls, getting niggas a kidney, but you ain't mob, you a op. Must be lost in the sauce. Been here for the art and the jump start. Wanted this is mom packed the lunchbox with the Kool-Aid jammers. And I'm still throwing tantrum. I'm set to roam around the planet where they know the songs and they chant them. The vision turned into fruition. I'm really liking how it's panning. They call me collector, you thought I planned it. Been crazy, then it fell into place. Now everything's stable. I'm all in on the table. You selling that fable, we know that it's made up. We know what you made of. I do better offline, yeah. I've been calling to a guy. I'm in tune with the signs. I'm just trying to let go. I'm just trying to be